This is Life Well Planned, featuring the 80-20-365 Success System with Adam Vincent Gilmer. I'm Gene Velitis, your host. Every week, Adam and I will be talking about his success system, the 80-20-365 course, which Adam has taught in more than 100 countries around the world. I'm not only your host, I'm also a student, and this has certainly been life-changing. At the beginning of every podcast or every video, because you might just be joining us here in the middle, and that's okay, you can go back and forth and binge, listen, and watch whatever you want to do. To get the most out of this course, we really emphasize that you go to Adam's site, 80-20-365.com, and purchase your daily planner. Purchase the entire package because you're going to need this. It's going to give your life direction quarterly, annually, and for the next 5 years, which is something we're going to be dealing with here in episode number 6. You're literally going to carry this around 24 hours a day. You're going to use it in the morning. You're going to use it throughout the day. And before you go to bed, you're going to review your day. And this may be very foreign to you right now, but as the days turn into weeks and the weeks turn into months, the months turn into years, these habits will become ingrained in your system, and you'll wake up one morning and you'll forget where your daily planner is, and it's just like your cell phone. You will panic. Where's my planner? Believe me, it's just like the cell phone. So you would think that normally we would tell you how to set up your monthly objectives and goals, but we're going to do that in our next episode, episode number 7. In episode number 6, Adam is going to frighten you because we're going to teach you how to set up your 5-year objectives and goals. And Adam, welcome back. And just like I said, this sounds really, really frightening because most people don't even know what they're going to be doing 2 hours from now. So when we're talking about setting up a 5-year objective, ooh, that's really taking things out there. It's scary. What's the first thing you have to do?
Well, can you imagine painting the Sistine Chapel and being Michelangelo and being told, listen, you're commissioned by the Pope, no matter, to say, listen, this is now your new job. And he was a sculptor. So it's a challenge. It's not supposed to be easy. If it was easy, everybody would be massively successful, Gene. It's not easy. But we try to simplify the process for everybody. And by the way, your objectives and your goals and your dream for the next 5 years is going to be ever changing. Mm-hmm. That's because you're going to be learning. And as we speed up learning, you become more defined in what you want to actually accomplish over the next 60 months. And I say 5 years because people get that, Gene, but really it's broken up into 60-month steps, 1 month at a time, like you're financing a car or something like that. Every month payment that goes by, you're getting closer and closer and closer to when the bottom line result after those 60 months, those 5 years, is you are now the owner of that vehicle, if it was a 5-year note on the car. Mm-hmm. Just like you're going to own your dream. And this is the way you're financing the final result. And 5-year objectives is the final results in 6 areas of your life, so you can truly have a life that's balanced and people will take notice. Okay. So that's what we do going through the system.
Okay, so do we use the Wheel of Life that we talked about in a previous episode to start developing those 5-year objectives? And if you can you give us examples in all those areas about what somebody should start writing down? Because, like I said, for a lot of people, this is going to frighten them because they haven't really thought that far in advance. And I know one of the things that you and I talked about is, well, you know what are you dreaming about? And there's that key phrase, what do you really want in life?
Yes. So I'm going to take the spirituality one first, a moment, being, so one of my goals was I wanted to go to Bethlehem. I wanted to see the Dead Sea. I wanted to see the Great Pyramids in Egypt. And this was a biblical thing for me, Gene. It was, things that I said, man, how do I make this happen? Okay. And, I find it intriguing that, I don't think we're random speck of dust in the universe that's developed into this intelligence over time. I think somebody had a hand in making us come about. So for me, my belief system was, let me see what I really, really want. Like, what would be the bucket list things that I would have to do? But I knew that I could get it done, but I just couldn't do it now. But I knew I could do it in the future. What would I want my spirituality to look like? Being. What knowledge would I have to have? Brain. What would I want my physical body looking like? You know, I turned 50 this year. I just turned 50. And, you know, my doctor, sorry, there's the alarm going off from my thing, in my ear. My doctor told me that, you know, he says, Adam, you're like a 31, 32-year-old. That's a good sign that the things that I'm doing are paying off. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Bring body, time, managing my time, sharing with all of you on this podcast or web episode, whatever you're watching, of how you can actually do it, how you can live life well planned. Being brain, body, time, people, networking with people, which people to network with, and the last one, money. And then I break everything down into the 80-20 principle. And Gene, it's really important that we start this now, going into this 5-year, 60-month bottom lines for the future, is that I'm holding here the 80-20 principle by Richard Koch, one of my great authors that I like to quote from time to time. And he's specifically talking about in this book how you apply this stuff. Okay. Now, I have a planning system where it applies it for you. You go to the website, you can buy it. It's $1 a day, and you can get serious. But, you know, just like the Living Life Well Planned we went through in the last episode 5, I think it was, I'm demanding that you plan out what you want your world, your life to look like 5 years from now. If you were the architect, and you are the architect of what you want your life to become, because you've been given this consciousness free, you know, you can do whatever you want with it, right? You can jump off a building, you can go on a plane, you can ride a bike, you can go swimming, you can do whatever you want. This consciousness is yours to do whatever you want with it. What would you like? And I just saw a report that talked about 87% of the world is unhappy with their financial life. So how is it that, you know, only 10+%, no, 13% is actually happy with their outcome? What are these people doing? Well, these people are driven by a vision, and they consistently see that vision every single day. And by focusing on your power hour every single day, like we talked about in the last episode, you can start to plan out what you want to see 5 years from now in those categories. What would make you a better spiritual person for whatever faith you happen to be? What was going to do that? Would it be, you know, walking in Mecca? Okay. Would it be going to see the Holy Land? Would it be meeting like Mother Teresa, or meeting somebody like that? Maybe meeting the Pope. What is going to be the things where you have in your spiritual world and your being side of you that you say, listen, man, I actually feel connected, complete, what have you. And this is the area how I'd like to live from 5 years from now. This is where I will be. Not this is something like it's a wish, but this is the result. And how I'm going to get there is these 60 months of going through, and then boom, you arrive. And what you're going to find out, and this happened to me, is that you arrive there much quicker. And that's why I say the 5 year, the 5 years, when you get much clearer on how you're executing every single day, it tends to come faster and faster and faster towards you, because you're becoming a magnet that's pulling these results, these 5-year bottom line results, into your life. And it's true for every aspect, you know, financial, friendship, marriage, love, kids, you know, knowledge, traveling around the world, whatever the case is, these things come to you sooner by practicing what we're talking about doing every single day. So how do you plan your 5 years? This is going to take a little time. Okay. So if you listen to the podcast right now, this is great, but you can't do it when you're driving in your car, and you can't do it by just watching the episode. You've got to kind of turn it off. Okay. And then get into saying, okay, what would I like to have for my being, my spirituality in 5 years? What would it be? And one of the things that Jessica, myself, and AJ did was feeding of children. Okay. this helped shape not only AJ, but also Jessica, and the result it had on myself, understanding that part of the being was making sure that we pass it on, pass it forward, give back. And that was one of the life-defining moments. It was actually, we were up in Canada at the We Foundation, and we figured out that we have a better methodology of not just feeding children, but now we're going to teach kids through this school system that we created and put in place. I'm not the only one who did it. There's a lot of people that helped. But the point is, they became better human beings. Gandhi was asked a question, and he said, be the change you would like to see in this world.
Yes, yes.
What would you like to change in your spirituality? And you plan it out. Now, it's going to change again and again and again and again and again. And finally, over the next 90 days, you'll start to hone in, and it gets very, very focused. Say, listen, here's the bottom line result. And then we're going to go back through the months, through the 60 months here, and you'll actually end up there.
Yeah.
So is there a definite question? No, but it's like this. I met a gentleman who was, who loved sailing. And his vision was, and one day I want to sail around the world. Okay. So he already liked sailing, small, like one man kind of yacht, right? But today, that's not where he is. Okay. Today he's in the Cayman Islands, and he's already sailed around the world, and he's met so many other people with a similar goal to him. It didn't start out by him saying, man, I'm just going to go and do it. It started out by him learning how to sail, learning to manage and rig out a bigger boat. He got connected to the right kinds of people because he was putting that energy out in the future, and it pulled the other people into his existence so that he could go out and start living and being the person he wanted to become, which was, in this instance, was sailing around the world.
Yeah.
This is how this stuff works.
Now, I'm going to paraphrase Leonardo da Vinci here, and he said that most people set goals for things they know they can achieve, and then that's not really a goal. In other words, they set the bar way too low. No. Now, when you really start thinking about a 5-year objective and something you really, really want to achieve, you have to start dreaming really big, bold, beautiful dreams. And the one thing I've learned from mentors, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, is these goals have got to frighten you and scare you and excite you all the same at the very same time. So somebody might be saying, well, I want to be like Adam. He's talking about having a Lamborghini and he just bought his wife a Rolls. And for some people, they're going to say, wow, I could never do that. And if your dream is you can never do that, well, guess what? You'll accomplish that goal as well.
Right.
So how do you clear your head and come up with a really big, incredible dream that might frighten you but excite you equally at the same time? How do you get past that fear and terror barrier of, you know what, here's what I want. Ooh, how do I make it happen? Will it happen? Because, everybody has FOF happening. It's around us all the time, fear of failure.
Right. I was watching a TED conference on YouTube, and, you just got to fucking do it, Gene. Okay. Like, I'm sorry to say it that way, but you just got to do it. People have to have a plan, and what the plan has to be big. This is putting the blueprint together. Just because we created a blueprint for a building, Empire State Building, Burj Khalifa, whatever it is, and it gets submitted to the planning committee, and here's what we're doing, doesn't mean that there aren't changes along the way to that blueprint that ultimately makes the big structure happen. Okay, so you gotta plan before you act, and that means writing down your dream. What would it be? Like, I used to have pictures of the white Lamborghini Countach back in South Africa in my bedroom wall, right? I loved the shape of the car. I found out how much they were. And I'm telling you, back then I was thinking there's no freaking way I'll be ever able to afford that, because that's where my thinking was at the time. It doesn't mean my thinking remained there. What happened was we moved to America, the land of opportunity and, following the American dream. I got into this incredible industry, the direct selling industry, and it completely changed my life. But all along the way, I was looking for a way to be involved in something. I knew that it wasn't going to be working 9 to 5 somewhere for an hourly wage or working at Starbucks. And no disrespect to the people that are there and listening to this maybe, and I'm not trying to put anybody down. What I'm trying to say is that's okay right now, but it's not where you want to end up. And you have to have a plan, and the plan is the blueprint. So you need to have big, bold, beautiful dreams. Somebody is building a structure bigger than the Burj Khalifa over in the UAE right now. It's the tallest building in the world. And they were challenged. It's not an easy challenge, but they accepted the challenge. And I want to challenge all of you listening to accept our challenge, my challenge to you, which is let's start doing it. Plan out what you want for your spirituality in 5 years from now. Maybe you want to be a pastor. Maybe you want to be an educator, whatever it is. Plan out what you want to do for your mind. Maybe you want to write some books. Maybe you want to be a published author. You've got the ideas, but you're not published yet. But that's what you see happening in the future. These are visions. These are things that I call them seeds of greatness, right? I believe that seeds of greatness are put in you by our Creator to say, listen, go out and become better. And here's what your contribution to society is going to be to make the world a better place. These are the things you're looking at 5 years from now. Gene, I've changed mine many times. This isn't something that I wrote it down one time 5 years back or 10 years back or in 1999 when I started this stuff. And I said, oh my goodness, in 5 years I'll have everything. No, what it was a natural progression of understanding, getting ahas from the day, having the power hours, going through the stuff, reading books. This is the stuff that happens. And by the way, you have to design it before you can implement it. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you're the architect. Decide what you really want 5 years from now. And I don't care if it's homes. You know, we have homes in several places. Okay. How did we get there? We failed our way along the way, and we learned what not to do. And we also found out what the hell to do. And when we started to make the pay dirt, started to make it become successful, then our focus, I say ours, mine, Jessica's, our focus changed. I was just at a counseling session the other day for our son, AJ. And the teachers, he goes to an incredibly great private school, one of the best here the best in Orange County, not one of the best, the best in Orange County. We're sitting down and the teachers, I'm with 5 teachers, principal, assistant principal, a person taking notes, assistant, and then 2 teachers that work with our son. And they had some questions for me. Now, for the folks listening, I know this sounds really strange, sharing my 8-year-old's education with you, but here's the point. The point is, he goes to a school where there's also a lot of other wealthy and affluent families. And AJ is telling his other friends in his class, well, I've been to Dubai. I've had dinner in the Eiffel Tower. I've walked the Chinese Great Wall. I've been to the Great Wall of China. I've been to the pyramids in Egypt. He's been to Tunisia. He's seen places that most kids probably wouldn't have. He's traveled to 60 countries with his mom and his dad. And when he jumps on the plane, he doesn't even look at coach. He goes straight into business class or first class going, where's my seat? Now, I'm not bragging, okay? It's not, we've given him a different section to look at, which is a vision, he's 8 years old, of what the future could look like. And his teachers were asking me, oh, the other one was, has he ridden on the back of camels? And the answer to everything is yes, 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 yes. And by the way, I've also had him stand on stage and hand out samples to an audience of like 5,000 and 6,000 people, okay, with me in a suit and tie. Now, I'm not saying that, just like the system, I'm not asking, I don't say, please, AJ, would you come on stage? I'm like, AJ, we're going on stage. It's a demand. You have to look at your future and demand that these things are going to be happening in your life over the 6 areas. And we covered the wheel of life in the earlier episode. You might want to go back and re-listen to that one again. But being, brain, body, time, people, and money, the 6 areas of your life that you would like to have in, I want to say control, because that's like trying to make sure that, everything's in control, because we're not really in control. But we're doing the best we can with the time that we have on the planet.
Right.
And by planning this stuff out, designing before you implement, and planning before you act. These are the things that shape up the big buildings, shape up the story, shape up the big airplanes that we fly on, whether it's Emirates or American Airlines or whatever the airline is around the world. Somebody had to design them. Somebody had to make sure that the seat you're sitting in and the bolts that were put in and everything else is working. Okay, somebody had to put this in place. And that somebody, you don't know them, but you're thankful when the plane takes off and touches down in Dubai or wherever you're traveling to. Like, man, I got here. You know, the A380 is an unbelievable plane. You know, and by the way, I know some pilots, and I asked them, I said, you know, what's the process? And they say, Adam, we have to file a flight plan. Now, they have flown hundreds of thousands and millions of miles and done this stuff before. Why on earth, if a pilot's taking off and knows what he's doing, why do they have to file a flight plan? Okay, that's because they plan before they act, and they've got a design of what they're doing. You know, there's another pilot that takes over somewhere in the journey. The other pilot go and sleep. There's a co-pilot, what have you. And for some reason, you don't know it, but you're sitting on the plane or you're laying down in business or first class, and you arrive at your destination. The winds were blowing. The pilots had to make some changes and, you know, in altitude and everything else. There were servers on the plane that made sure you had breakfast, came and see if you wanted something to drink or eat or whatever the case is. And you arrive at your destination. And not one of us thinks, gee whiz, I can't wait to thank those pilots and that staff. And what I'm trying to show you is that those were the stepping stones of your journey across the Atlantic or across the pond, whatever it is. And that journey is the 5 years that we're going to get to. When they file a flight plan, they determine where they're going to be touching down. It's a given bottom line that this is where they'll be. When they take off, they have to take off, make adjustments, and they finally make it over there. That's how this stuff works. But you have to file the plan. You have to decide what you want your area of life to look like for spirituality, knowledge, how you want your body, how you want your diet to be, managing your time, most importantly, networking with the people that can get you there. And our affirmations kind of walk you through some of that, like attracting to yourself. One of my daily affirmations is I attract to my reality like-minded beings who will partner with me to help change the world. And together we'll earn multiple 6, 7, and 9-figure incomes. And Gene, I'm in a company right now that has just done over $7 billion worth of sales in 10 years and paid out over $3.5 billion in commissions. You know, the stuff that I'm talking about works, but people have to be willing to go out on the limb and write some big plans down. And right. This is how we'll get there.
3 little things before we wrap up this episode. I think what happened to your son at school is telling about we adults, because I'm sure some of those teachers were doubting your son, saying, did he really do all those things? And isn't it interesting that we adults, our minds get so tainted and, you know, old paradigms kick in, that your 8-year-old has bigger dreams and accomplishments than some adults who can't dream that big. And I think the lesson there is, and you and I have talked about this extensively, when you're figuring out your 5-year objectives and goals, you don't have to think about if you're going to accomplish them, only you have to know that you are going to accomplish them.
Correct. You know, AJ was saying he's going through, you know, you bring this up, but like he was going through this phase of he was dressing up as a soldier and, you know, for Halloween, you know, he wanted to be Halo, you know, once again, these are all the things that are shaping him right now. But the great thing is that being in the business I'm in and doing Zoom calls or going around the world and doing lectures and showing people how to build a business, okay, being an entrepreneur, he asked me, he said, Dad, you know, how much money can you make in the military? Because what you have to understand, like he's looking at stuff. And I said, well, I said, you know, it's good to serve, but you have to decide what you really want to do. He says, well, you know what? I think I'm going to do what you do. Now listen, okay. If we think about this, okay, And I've been watching, I listen to a lot of different mentors. Okay. This isn't just something that I think I'm a guru or something. Okay. I listen and I get education from other people and I write stuff down that makes sense to me. It's part of my 5-year outcome. Okay. And I was listening to another mentor and he said something like this. He said, how many of you would like your children to turn out like your parents? And he asked the audience and no hands went up. And then he asked the next question. He said, how many of you would like your children to turn out like you? And only a few hands went up. And then he asked the most telling question. He says, how many would like your children to be better than your parents and to be better than you? And almost every single hand of people who are parents went up at the audience. And here's my challenge to all of you listening. Okay. If you don't stretch and plan out your next 5 years, then you already know where you're going to be. But if you do plan it out and make them big, okay? This year we're going on another vacation to Italy and then over to France. And later on in the year, we have a massive trip to where I was born in South Africa. We got a huge company trip out there and I'm taking the entire family. They've never been before. They're all talking about it. That's what the energy is. They've never been. They've been to Italy and they've been to France many times, and Europe, all over, Russia, but they've never been to Africa. And AJ is asking me, are there lions and zebras in the streets? But you understand the beauty of that? Okay, the beauty of that is he knows the animals come from that part of the region, but he hasn't quite pictured it all. In his mind, he's got a picture of it, but he doesn't really understand how the animals are in the streets. They're not in the streets. But the point is in his mind, he's thinking, how does this work? That's where we want you when you're planning out your 5-year. What you're going to see is the animals, but you're just going to be able to make the picture more concise and more focused once you're there. Your job is to say, you want to see the animals. And that's the vision for all these categories: being, brain, body, time, people, and money. And by the way, how much money is enough, Gene? Like I've never met somebody say like, a billionaire go, oh, gee whiz, I can't wait to make a few more. I've made enough money, I'm done. People have a different consciousness when it comes down to finances. There's not enough money that you could make. And by the way, there's no shortage of it either in the universe. You have to exchange value. And when you exchange value, your value proposition for your next 5 years is stretching the brain, writing this stuff down, even no matter how crazy it might be, parachuting from a plane, going bungee jumping, being in great shape, losing 50 pounds, losing 100, I don't care, okay? But we're going to now, once you've got those blocks in the sand, lines in the sand that we're going to get to, we are now going to systematically backtrack to month number 1. And then month number 2, and month number 3, and month number 4. And I already know that when you practice and you do this on 5-year bottom lines, and you hone in the focus of what you want to do, you and I, people listening, will end up in an entirely different place than not doing it. And I'd rather have you do it, because if you do it, you have the pay dirt chance of actually arriving where we're supposed to be or where you want to be. And that's what this episode is about the 5-year objectives, having a big vision for your life.
And that is episode number 6. Coming up in episode number 7, we're going to take that huge 5-year vision that Adam was talking about, and we're going to use the 3 steps to set up your day, which will start giving you your monthly and weekly objectives and start building to that big picture. Adam, this was a great episode. Thanks so much.
I love it. Welcome.
And we always say, go to Adam's website. You need the daily planner because, as Adam says, he's demanding that you write this down. So you need the book. It's $1 a day. What a small investment for the rest of your incredible life. It's www.8020365.com. Get it. Listen to the podcast. Check out the videos on Adam's website. This is episode number 6. Coming up, episode number 7, we're going to take that big, bold, amazing dream and start breaking it down into the 3 steps you do every single day to make this happen daily, weekly, and monthly. It's your life well planned, the 80-20-365 success system with Adam Vincent Gilmer. I'm your host, Gene Velitis. Talk to you on the next episode.